Hello guys, this is your friend from ninjavibeZ and we are back with a new fanfic, which is What If Naruto Was Exiled with Kurama and Rose as the founder of Neo Shiogakure with Queen Hinata Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. The land of waves, Nami no Kuni, a country once ravaged and milked dry by the tyrant Gado, was brimming with life. Even in the cool night air of the fall, one could see a country that was truly alive. Many of the residents had packed it in and already went to bed, while others are enjoying the evening with whatever company they could find. Ever since Gato had been removed, the country has been able to bring more clients and tourists from all around the elemental nations to their happy home. The biggest attraction to Wave is the gigantic bridge that connects it to the mainland of Hakuni, Fire Country. This bridge was the hope of the country and the key to their salvation. Suna was the man who built this bridge. He carried the hopes of all his people as he built this landmark, knowing that God would do whatever it takes to stop him. Suna at times almost lost hope along with the people of Wave. However, there was one person who revived their spirits. He gave them hope again. Hope in a brighter tomorrow and the hope to fight for what you believe in. It was a simple boy, a genin at that helped the people overthrow God and take back their county. It was after this boy that the bridge was named after, so all would know about the hero of Wave. The one who saved them all. The one who gave them the ability to hope again. And currently that same boy was sitting on the roof of Suna's roof looking up at the night sky. Naruto Uzumaki continued to stare at the night sky with envy. He wished he was star-free and independent without a care in the world. Just endlessly floating in the never-ending void of space in peace. He sighed tiredly. Something that felt like the 100th time he had done today. Things have not been too kind for the young Uzumaki. Then again, he can't remember a time when things were easy for him. Ever since the boy could utter a word, life had been difficult for him. He was an orphan boy that had no knowledge of who his parents were. Whenever he asked, all he was told was his mother was who wanted nothing to do with him, and his father was a bastard drunk that got himself killed. Sadly, these were the types of things Naruto was used to hearing since he was little child. For as long as he can remember, he was hated by everyone in his village. They would either ignore his existence or glare at him like he was an abomination to the world. On numerous occasions, they would form a mob and chase him around before beating with whatever weapons they could find till he was a bloody mess. The hospital would rarely allow him in and barely do a passable job in treating him. The worst beatings were on his birthday. October 10th, the most dreaded day of his life. The day the Kalobi attacked the village and was stopped by the Yandami. The only way to stop the fox was to seal it into him. Because of that act, everyone now saw him as the Kali in human skin and would do everything in their power to make his life miserable. That is how his life has been for the last 13 years. Hell, he never found out about the fox until he graduated from the Ninja Academy at the age of 12. Those genuine days after graduation were probably some of the few good days he had in his life. However, his genuine team was severely flawed. Sakura, his now ex-crush, would fawn over their other teammate, and their sensei, Kakashi Hatake, would favor said teammate, Sasaki Uchiha. Sasaki was an arrogant prick that believed he could do everything on his own and without the help of others. All in the name of getting his petty revenge on his brother Itachi. That alone was huge understatement for what his team was like. However, despite the horrendous conditions of the team, there was some enjoyment with them and all the adventures they went on. Then everything changed when Sasuke tried to defect to Orochimaru. It was up to Nar and his 5 teammates to find Sasaki and bring him back to the village. In the end, it was a grueling fight against his renegade teammate. What made it worse was that he had to hold back from killing the bastard for 2 reasons. 1. It would make the mission a complete failure. 2. The civilian council and the village would scream for his immediate execution. Because of all this, he lost to his teammate as he succeeded in crossing over to the borders of the Sound Village. Nar was rather down after arriving back at the village. He felt like he let everyone down, that he had failed their expectations. On the plus side, no one died on the mission. So, there was some good news to this failure of a mission. However, things were going to get worse for Nar from here on out. While Nar was in the hospital recovering from the mission, Sakura came to visit him. However, instead of worrying about his injuries, she berates him for failing the mission and not bringing back her precious Sasha _ he could still remember what she called him. Wham, 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 wham. The sound of flesh meeting flesh as SCUR as fists meet with Naruto's face. No matter how hard Nar pleaded, she continued to attack him. Sakura-kun. Please, Santo. He was cut off as she bashed him on the jaw. Shut up, she screeched as she continued to pummel the _ out of him. You failed. You failed. How the hell could you fail such a simple mission? You couldn't do this one thing right for me. For Sasaki, you did it on purpose, didn't you? You were LVC jealous of us, and this was your solution in getting in our way of being together. You can't do anything right. I hate you, Nar. I hate everything about you. I will hate you with every fiber of my being for the RSCT of my life. Her screaming finally caught the attention of the doctors and nurses in the adjacent room. They all came in along with Kakashi. They were all horrified at the bloody state Naruto was in. Get her off the kid. The last thing we need is the Hokage accusing us of being negligent in our duties and having our heads. Roared the head doctor of the group. Kakashi and the other doctors and nurses all jumped and managed to pry Sakura off of Nar. The doctors went to Nar to help him calm down from the shock he received from the beating. While this was going on, Sakura was struggling against Kakashi's iron grip. Let me go. That demon has to pay. For not bringing back Sasaki _ she screeched at him. Kakashi just glared at her before. Slap. Sakura just stood there in shock that her own sensei slapped her. She would have screamed at him for the action, but his cold glare stopped her from doing that. Listen here, Genin. Nar and the others were given an A- rank mission to retrieve Sasaki Uchiha. The same Uchiha that cared little about your feelings and left of his own free will. The mission was to bring him back with force being permitted if deemed necessary. And considering Orochimaru sent his 4 most powerful subordinates, force was definitely a necessity. Now look how all of them ended up. 4 of the 5 members are severely injured with Choji and Nei at death's door. The only ones to come out with minor injuries were Shikamaru and Rock Lee. Had the Sand not send their shinobi, we would be burying some of these ninjas. Ninjas that are supposed to be your friends. And what do you do instead of worrying about their health? You were beating Nar for failing a mission that he probably did his best to not fail on. I was already ashamed of Sasaki, but now I am ashamed of you, Sakura. As far as I am concerned, you and Sasaki are not my students. You are nothing more than the worst piles of trash I've had the displeasure of knowing. Sakura just stood there in shock before glaring hatefully at Kakashi before walking out of the room. However, she stopped at the entrance of the room before sending one last hateful glare at Nar. Filthy demon, she says before leaving the room. Normally this would crush anyone else but not Nar. While Nar was heartbroken by her words, deep down he knew that she would never feel the same way he did for her. He was painfully shown this when he brought to heel Sasaki after his encounter with Itachi. Now all he felt was disappointment. disappointment in Sakura and disappointment in himself. He thought Sakura actually cared about him. But what she did instead proved him so wrong. He had wasted so much time in chasing Sakura because of his idiotic crush, but her actions had killed any feelings he had left for his pink-haired teammate. However, not everything was all bad. Was glad to have him back alive and said he less than greater than LL make a full recovery in just a few days. Kakashi had come in and apologized for his negligence as a sensei and swore he would make it up to him. Nar tried to insist he did not need to do this, but Kakashi thought otherwise. His first act of repentance was to give Naruto a scroll on nature transformation and manipulation along with his signature just you, the Chidori. Naruto was surprised but graciously accepted the gifts. The next big surprise came in the form of Hinata Hyuga. After the incident with Sakura, Tsunade had decided that Nar needed to be left alone to recuperate. Hinata had sneaked in order to speak with him. At first, Nar was scared of Hinata. He wondered if she'll reject him as well like Sakura did for Sasaki. However, he was surprised when she wrapped him in a soft hug and began to sob on his shoulder. He could hear her say how thankful she was that he was still alive. She could not bear the idea of losing him. She would rather die than live a life without him. Nar was shocked. He didn't know he meant that much to Hinata. He finally asked her why did she hold him to such high regards when he failed the mission. Then Hinata would say words that would forever be engraved to his heart. You mean the world to me, Narutkin. I couldn't bear the thought of losing you. A life without you is the same as being dead for me. You are my everything, Narutkin. Ever since you saved me from those bullies, I have always looked up to you in admiration. And as the years went by, it became something more for me. I want to tell you that I will always be there you. I will always believe in you because I love you, Narun. I love you with all my heart and soul. Nar was speechless at her confession. He never thought Hinata felt that strongly of him. He soon couldn't help it, but shed tears. But these were tears of joy, of hearing someone say they loved him. Nar told her that he was really happy to hear that and wanted to give this a chance. Hinata just smiled and said she would help him to learn what it means to love someone. Hinata and Naruto shared their first kiss with Naruto, asking afterwards if Hinata would mind being his girlfriend. She replied with a yes, and the two continued to make out on his hospital bed. Hinata soon left and told him they will have their first date after he was released. However, things were about to go from bad to worse after he was discharged from the hospital. The minute he was released, the council immediately called him into a meeting and demanded an explanation for why the mission was a failure. Nar questioned why they don't just ask Shikamaru, but they retorted that they wanted a worded explanation from every member of the recovery team. So Naruto explained the mission from his point of view up until his fight with Sasaki. With great reluctance, he explained Sasaki using the curse mark and being forced to use the Kyuubi's chakra. After explaining everything, he hoped to get some recognition for his efforts and hopefully some pep talk that he tried his best and maybe next time there be some success. Well, did he get it? Nope. Nar got screwed over once again. The civilian council began cursing his name and demanding for his execution for failing the mission. Nar got very pissed off and told them all to shut the hell up. You ungrateful bastards. My team busts our asses to bring your precious little Uchiha back. And this is the thanks I get. You may call me a demon, but I rather be a demon than the filthy mongrels right in front of me. Needless to say, none of the council liked that remark and looked like they were about blow several fuses. Before another shouting match could commence, Tsunade shut both sides up. Tsunade then demanded what the hell this meeting would entail. The old fossils of the Shinobi Council said that since Naruto used the Kyobi chakra to create a chakra cloak and used excessive force against the Uchiho, the council sees Nar has become a threat to the village and needs to be taken care of. They all announce that he needs to be punished for his transgressions against the village. They all asked for hands for Nar to be banished from the village, immediately protested that only the Hokage has the power to banish a shinobi, and even then she must have the majority of the council to agree with the Kage's decision. The Shinobi Council all smirked in victory. They explained that after the Kalobi attack, the council took several powers from the Hokage, including the power to banish a shinobi. They took a vote and it ended in a majority voting for banishment, and that his contract to the Toads be terminated immediately, with Jiraiya forfeiting all rights to train the boy from this day forward. Nar did not react to the sentencing besides bowing his head. Sununade was holding back her tears while the clan heads bowed their heads in shame for failing the boy yet again. The civilian and shinobi council smirked in victory until they felt an ungodly ki overflowing the room. They all looked to see Naruto glaring at them hatefully. Many of the civilians began to gain from the pressure while others were getting nervous, and the shinobi council looked unimpressed. That was until the Kyobi added its own ki, which knocked out the remaining civilians and left the shinobi council rather nervous. Before anyone could say anything, Naruto spoke in a bone-chilling voice. So that's it, huh? After everything I gave for this village, this is what I get in return. I have sweat, bleed, and shed tears for this hellhole. And even after all that, it's not enough for you bastards. Well, I hope you remember this day, because I swear you will regret this decision that I promise you, and I always keep my promises. Nar ends his rant with taking off his headband and slamming it onto the ground before leaving a stunned council in his wake. Nar was so angry he just wanted to scream out in rage and agony. However, Nar held back the tears because there would be a time and a place for it. Nar quickly went to the hospital to at least say goodbye to his friends before it was too late. When he arrives, he sees all the rookies, their senses, and the Sand siblings all together in a recovery lobby catching up. When everyone saw him, they were about to greet him until they saw his face. Nar gave them all a bittersweet smile, knowing this may be the last time he sees them for a long time. Shikamaru swallowed the dread building up and asked Nar what happened. Nar sighed before explaining what happened in the council meeting and how it ended with his banishment. By the time he ended his explanation, everyone had varying reactions. However, the two biggest reactions he saw was anger and sorrow. Everyone wanted to march down there and give the council a piece of their minds, but Nar stopped them, saying it would do no good. Nar thanked them for everything before walking away. Nar quickly went to his apartment and gathered what little belongings he had before preparing to walk out before the council tried something. Right as he opened the door, he was confronted with the sad face of Hinata Hyuga with a bag. Hinata explained that the elders wanted to get rid of her, but her father caught wind of this plan and gave her what he could before telling her to leave with Nar. Nar did not want Hinata to be on the run with him, but he would be damned if he let those bastard Hyuga elders do something to his Hinata. The two went through a secret passage that he had discovered when he was younger and were out of the village by the time night had settled in. The two made it to Wave in just 2 days. They soon reunited with Suna and his family. Nar barred right to Tsunami in tears along with Hinata. This surprised the family, but they did their best to comfort the duo. They then explained what happened, and to say they were pissed would be understatement. They were downright furious and swore they would make that village pay for what they did to their hero. The family decided to give the duo a hero's welcome, which the two were reluctant about, but they enjoyed it nonetheless. It was there they were surprisingly reunited with the sound ninja Tuya. At first, Naruto and the girl were at odds with one another, but she explained after Orochimaru left her for dead, there was nothing left for her in Odo. So, she dragged herself out before some travelings found her and brought her to Wave for some medical attention. She was recuperated back to full health and decided to make a new life for herself here. Now, after almost a week here, Naruto had no clue what to do next. Iwa was out of the question, he had no clue. If Kiri's civil war had ended, Suna would not be a good place to stay for the long term since they were allies with the Leaf and Kumo was definitely out after what happened with Hinata. He sighed. He could always go to Spring. But what then? The Akatsuki was still out there and there was Orochimaru and Sasaki. So, what could he do? He sighed again. I wish someone could give me a sign, he muttered to himself. Suddenly, he felt a pull before he disappeared in a plume of smoke along with several other people. When Naruto regained his bearings, he looked to see himself, Hinata, Suna, Tsunami, Inari, and Tuya in a blank void. Narun, where are we? Ya Blondie, where the underscore, are we? Tuya asked before being smacked over the head by Tsunami. Language to Yuya growled but stayed silent. Nari, what is this place? Before he could reply, Nar and the others felt a chill envelope their bodies as if death itself was right next to them. Oh, how they wished they could take that back. A booming voice then spoke to them. I can answer all your questions, mortals. Everyone turned to see something they were not expecting. An ethereal being with red horns, long white moopy hair. He had a pale purple tint to his skin with black nails. He wore a white kimono with a knife in his hand. He had giant teeth coming out his mouth. The most striking feature were his eyes that were completely black with a yellow iris. Nar could not believe his luck. Of all the places to end up in, they ended up in his domain. In front of them was the Shinigami, the god of death. They then heard a giggle around the void. Now Shinken, don't square the poor kids. I think they have been through enough for one lifetime. There was a flash of light that blinded everyone. When everyone regained their vision, they saw another figure next to the Shinigami. She was beautiful woman in her early-20s. She silky black flowing down to her back. She wore a long flowing black kimono with the sleeves detached. On her chest was light red ribbon with a leaf ornament at the center. Her face had a light complexion. But the most stunning thing were her eyes. They were a deep shade of dark blue like the night sky. Everyone wondered who she was before she began speaking. Hello everyone, my name is Izanami, goddess of life and death. I have come here to speak to all of you. More specifically, I came to speak with young Naruto. This made everyone, including the blonde tense, what could two of the Shinto deities want with Nar? The reason I wish to speak with him is to offer him a proposition as the last heir of the whirlpools and the last descendant of the prince. Nar and company continued to stare at the two deities in shock, not knowing what to say. After all, it's not every day you get two important figures from the Shinto pantheon visiting you. However, the question they all had is what did they want and what did they mean that Nar is the lost prince of Whirlpool? Nar wasn't sure what to think, but decided asking was better than staying quiet. Forgive me, Izanami-sama Shinigami-sami, but can you explain what do you mean by being the heir of Whirlpool or being last descendant of the prince? He asked, genuinely confused about what's going on. The two deities looked at the boy in sadness. Both knowing how much has been stolen and kept away from him, but no more. They will no longer stand by and do nothing. It was time for a change. Before we answer that Naruto, there is one more person that should be here. The Shinigami then raised his hand towards the blonde and held his open palm towards the boy. Nar then felt an odd sensation as a red orb came out of his chest. The orb floats toward the death god until he squeezes his hand shut and the orb suddenly glows brightly, causing the mortals to cover their eyes. When the light died down, the group looked and were completely dumbfounded by what they saw. In the place of the orb was one of the most beautiful women that any of them had ever seen. She was in her early to mid-20s with cream-colored skin, raven hair that went down her waist, and a revealing red kimono dress that showed off her impressive figure and assets. However, the most distinguishing feature of the girl was the black fox ears on top her head, the 3 whisker marks on her cheeks and her 9 snow-white tails curling all around her. None could utter a word at the new guest with them. "State your name," commanded the Shinigami. The woman opened her eyes and revealed her golden slitted eyes. "My name is Yoko Ari, queen of all the Beiju. One of the 10 children accreted by Hagoromo Ozutsuki, the sage of 6 paths." Everyone's eyes bugged out as they heard the vixen's intro. This was the Kyobi. How since when has the Kyobi been female? Although all the females felt some female pride knowing the most powerful of the tailed beast was a female. Ari noticed the stares and gave a fanged smile. "Do you like what you all see?" Everyone, especially the guys, gained a healthy blush and did their best to turn heads. Nar had to turn his eyes away since he felt wrong ogling at another girl while attempting at being in a relationship with Hinata. Ari saw this and gained a very sly smile. She found Naruto's predicament very adorable and decided to have fun with him and his girlfriend. She slowly walked towards the duo and then took Naruto's chin by her delicate fingers and turned his head so he was looking at her. "Is there something wrong, Narkin?" She purred seductively. "Does my human form not to appeal to you?" She purred out as she allowed her assets to jiggle in front of her vessel. Nar could feel his face turn a new shade of red that could give Hinata a run for her money. He could feel his resolve being dissolved in front of the goddess Demoness. However, he felt his arm being pulled in between 2 soft pillows. He turned and his eyes soon began to bug out of his eyes. Hinata was clinging to his arm in between her breasts. But what was getting his attention was her face. Her lips were puckered up and she was glaring at Ari in envy. She was already self-conscious of seeing Ari's body, but she would be damned to allow the sexy vixen to takea her Sonya from her. Narut _ Izum Ari-sama. Hinata retorted with as much steel as she could muster. Nar and everyone gawked at the girl's bold statement to the demon queen. Ari just smirked. She liked this girl's attitude. So many possibilities. Everyone turned to the Shinigami and Izanami looking at the trio in amusement. As entertaining as your shows of affections are, we have a schedule to keep up with. Everyone turned to the two with serious expressions, none more so than Nar, who wanted answers to their previous inquiry towards him. "Can you please tell me what did you mean earlier? And why did you bring Ari out? What do you want from us?" The two gods sighed before looking at each other then at their audience. "There are many reasons for why we have brought you here and now it's time to explain ourselves." They then looked directly at Nar. "It's time, Nar, for you to hear about the origins of your family." The two then created a sphere and set it above their audience. "Behold the history that has been lost through the sands of time." The group then see a very young woman with snow-white hair, pale skin, and red lipstick and wearing a very formal white kimono. However, what got everyone's attention was her eyes. She had the Bakugan. Everyone was surprised, especially Hinata. Who was this woman? Why did she have the Bakugan? In relation did she have to Nar? Hinata especially wanted to know since she has never heard of this woman within her clan. Ari was looking at the woman in fear, knowing exactly who she was. "You all must be wondering who this woman is." "Correct." Everyone minus Ari nodded. "This is Kaya Osatsuki, the mother of all chakra and the origin of the Uzumaki, Senju, Uchiha, Hyuga, and the Kaya clans of the elemental nations." Everyone just God, while Ari nodded, knowing this already. Nar voiced his questions quite verbally. Wait, hold on, can you please explain this? And also, what did you mean by an Uzumaki clan? I have never heard about them until now. The gods waved their hands to calm the young blonde before pointing at the sphere. Long ago, before the elemental nations were forged, a long and grievous war was brewing by two opposing sides. The fighting had gone on for centuries without a sign of ending, and the very landscape they fought was being corrupted as blood continued to be spilled into the earth. There was only one place that was never touched by the war. A garden created by us. This was meant to be a paradise that only the most worthy would be able to find and enter. At the center of this garden was a tree. This tree was known as the Shinju tree, a tree that we, the very gods themselves, created. This shocked the group as they saw the massive tree. We created it as a gift to humanity. It was meant to be a symbol of our power and to promote peace for all humans. It was meant to inspire humanity to push beyond their normal limitations and to pass this on to the rest of the world. However, there was one special feature that we included with this tree. Every few years, a very special fruit will begin to bear in the lower parts of the tree near the earth. This fruit was infused with our essence. Thus eating it could a regular become a demigod. We decreed a law that no human will ever eat the fruit whenever the tree bears it. For some time this worked as no human ever tried to eat the fruit regardless of how bloody the war went. That was until Kaya appeared. Everyone tensed knowing something was going to go bad. Then a young demon named Kaya came and wanted to end this conflict and unify the lands under rule. She defiled our law and ate the Shinju fruit. When she did, her already demonic abilities were amplified with the divine properties of the fruit transformed her into something that was both demon and divine yet neither at the same time. Kaya gained the Renei sharing from this and became the first person to wield chakra. Everyone became slightly fearful as they saw a third eye emerge from Kaya's forehead. They became even more terrified when Kaya destroyed several armies off the face of the earth with just a wave of her hand. With her new powers, Kaya ended the war and for a time she brought peace to the warring nations and the world at large. She was seen as the benevolent rabbit goddess. Everyone, while glad at this turn of the story, knew this time of peace would not last for long. However, for reasons that we are not aware of, she changed. She began to become a corrupted ruler. She let the power get to her head. She believed she should be the sole person with chakra and began imprisoning humanity to steal their life energy. She would have succeeded had her sons, Hagoromo and Hamura Osatsuki, not chosen to defy her rule. Everyone's jaws dropped at the titanic battle that took place between the Chakra Mother and her sons. The two managed to fight her off until seeing her sons betray finally made her snap. She fell into a maddening rage of insanity. She absorbed the entirety of the Shinju tree into her own being. She went into a terrifying transformation into a monstrous form that suited her persona as the Devil Rabbit Goddess. Her new form took a nightmare human form with a flower bud on her back and 10 tails swaying behind her. From then on, she became the Jubi, the 10-tailed beast. Everyone stared in fear at the Mansori. Hinata cuddled to Nar in fear. Ari stared at the monster Kaya turned into having a wave of fear and nostalgia hit her. Her time before becoming a Buju was limited, but there were bits and pieces she still remembered. One was remembering the power that Kaya oozed out could be felt even in hell. The two brothers fought their mother off for days. The very land they fought her in was split into numerous pieces. The sky cracked and the ocean stormed in wake of their battles. Eventually, the brothers succeeding in sealing her in a large planetoid while draining her out, leaving her powerless. The planetoid went up to orbit and became part of the moon. The two absorbed the power into themselves, although Hagoromo took the majority of the Jubi's power into himself. By this point, everyone's jaw couldn't go any further down and just decided to listen in on where this history lesson was going. As time went on, they began to teach the world of Ninshu to become a part with the natural energy of the world and use the energy they have within themselves to better understand the world around them along with each other and most importantly themselves. Eventually, Hamura left to the moon to watch over his mother with a select group of followers. However, he did leave a family of supporters to continue his beliefs. These people would later be known as the Hyuga clan. Hinata's eyes widen. Her clan never told her about this. Hell, her clan never even spoke of Kaya. She wouldn't be surprised if the so-called elders decided any history that they didn't like be erased so they could keep dominance within the clan. As time goes on, Hagoromo had two sons, Indra and Ashura. Indra gained Hangoro less than Ankh greater than eyes and incredible intellect. He believed that through power, peace can be achieved. His brother obtained his father's body. This gave him incredible stamina and longevity that could not be matched by anyone. He believed it was through love and understanding that people can come together. When the time came to choose a successor, he believed Ashur should be the heir. However, Indra did not accept this. He felt Ashur stole what was rightfully his birthright. This led to a battle between the two that would continue on with their descendants. Before he died, Hagoromo, getting an idea from Ashura, took the Jubi's power within him and split the power into 10 separate powers. However, he needed sentient beings to truly take the power. So, he summoned 10 demons from hell to do this. One of these 9 was Ari. Thus, the Beiju came to being from 0 tails to 9 tails. His last act was to ask the Beiju to watch over humanity and wait for the person that would once again bring them together. Wait, what? There were 10 Beiju. They never even heard about a 0 tails even existing. Talk about shock to the system. However, humanity feared the Beiju and treated them as if they were abominations. The constant hatred and rejections corrupted them and they became the so-called nightmarish monsters that you know today. However, while this was going on, the families of Indra and Ashur continued to fight against one another. As time passed, their descendants continued this feud. Even though the cause was lost as time went on, these two families will later became known as the Uchiha and Senju clans. Everyone wasn't surprised since they knew the clans had to come up eventually. Naro, however, still had a bit of impatience eating at him. Wait, how did the Uzumaki come into this? The gods looked more amused than annoyed at the interruption. We were getting to that. Nar blushed in embarrassment while Hinata rubbed his back to calm his nerves. Anyway, one of Ashur's direct descendants had 2 children, twins. The younger sibling did not believe in the senseless fighting between the two families and took those that also followed her belief and left to live somewhere far from the fighting and to live in peace. They all went into an island that was deeply rooted in the spiritual plane and prayed for guidance on what they should do. That is when we appeared before them. We also did not see fit with the constant fighting of the two families. We feared one day Kaya may use this as an opportunity to come back through one of her descendants. We asked them to be our representatives to help keep the other families at bay while not succumbing to either of the family's ideals. They agreed as long as we agreed to protect all future descendants of their new family. We blessed them with a portion of our spiritual powers which caused their stamina and longevity to increase even more. Their bodies become much more durable along with an incredible healing factor. Our blessing also caused their hair to turn different shades of red. A sign they took as a form of their new allegiance, their new family. They gained the ability to fight evil spirits, demons, and created a fighting style that had the grace and power of a god, but the ferocity of a demon. This is how the Uzumaki clan came to be. Nar and the other stared at the deities after what they just heard. To think that 5 of the most famous infamous clans in the elemental nations came from one being was insane. However, something clicked in Naruto's head about the Uzumaki clan and connecting it to a certain red head in the void. Wait, if all Uzumakis have red hair, does that meant that? The gods nodded. Yes, Naruto, that makes you into Yuya originate from the same clan. You two are family. This shocked everyone in the void, especially the aforementioned relatives. The two continued to look at one with shocked awe. The two never knew anything about their families on either side of their parents. So this was startling revelation. Nar always tried asking the Sandaime if he knew anything about his family. But he would always tell Nar that they died in the Kyobi attack and they loved him very much. That was it. He never got anything else about his family. Hell, not even about his other relatives. Hell, he was never told anything about having a clan. Knowing that he had a family all this time, he couldn't feel but feel betrayal and anger against the Sandaime for keeping such things from him. Things he had a right to know. What got him angrier is that Kakashi, Tsunade, and Jiraiya probably knew about his clan and yet they also told him nothing. Nar made a personal promise to get them back later for their lies. Tsuya was having her own thoughts on this revelation. She never knew anything about her family. Hell, she did not know she was even from a clan. The only thing she had from her parents was her flute that she always carried along with her. The one thing she did remembered is that she always lived on the streets due to her parents dying at a young age until Orochimaru found her. After that, it was training and experimenting on her body and the other test subjects until she reached her current situation in Wave. Now then, much time passed until we get to the founding of your village and the first Hokage being chosen, Hashiyama Senju. However, the Uchiha leader at the time, Midoriya, was not keen at the way things were going for the village, especially for the Uchiha clan. Eventually, he would leave the village when the Nadim Hokage was nominated. This would lead to the legendary battle between the two strongest shinobi of their times. The clash created what is now known as the Valley of the End. This leads to the current descendants of Indra and Ashur. That person is you, Nar. Everyone could not believe what they were hearing. Nar was from a long line of family rooted in spiritual world. Not to mention he's basically the descendant of the first person to hold title of God of Shinobi. While they understood Ashura, how was Nar related to Indra? Wait, I understand everything you just said, but how am I related to Indra? Shouldn't I only be related to Ashur because of my connection to the Sinu and Uzumaki clans? Nar asked, generally confused. The Shinigami answered, the answer is simple. You are part of the Uchiha clan on your father's side of your family. Naruto's eyes widened. My father. With uncertainty, Hinata looked at her boyfriend. Sadly, she knew how much it meant to him to know any little detail that involved his parents. Any orphan would be like that. But Nar was much more serious since he was constantly hated and told vulgar lies about his parents. Everyone called his mother a strung-up underscore, that wanted nothing to do with him, and his father was a deadbeat bastard that cared little of him or his mother and probably died in a ditch like the pathetic loser he was. Now he finally might get answer on who his parents were. The two gods nodded sadly. Naruto, the revelation of your parents begins with the most important day of your life, the date of your birth. The orb then glowed before everyone saw a woman appearing in the screen. She had long crimson hair with violet eyes. Her face was contorted in pain. Everyone's eyes widened as they realized who this was: Naruto's mother. Kusha Uzumaki, giving birth to him. The orb then turned its attention to another. This was a man with spiky blonde hair and blue hairs. He was telling the woman to keep going and that he'll hold the seal. Everyone's eye nearly popped out as they realized that Naruto's father was Minato Namikaze. Thea Yandai and he was keeping the seal of the Kyobi in check. Suddenly after Naruto was born, a masked man took him and held him for ransom and Minato managing to rescue him from dying. The scene cut to Ari being ripped out of Kusha by the Mansa Sharingana and then forced her to attack her previous vessel. Her husband saving her and then engaging the masked man and the Kabi in combat. Minato managed to free Ari from her mind control, but she was still in a psychotic rage and continued to destroy the village. Minato summons Gamabunta to hold the Ari down and teleporting them to his last location. Kusha holding Ari with her chains. Minato deciding to seal the her in Naruto and incorporating their chakra in the seal so they can see him again when he is older. Minato summons the Shinigami and seals half the Kyobi in himself and then prepares to seal the second half. Kusha starts to lose control and her chains soon began to loosen. Ari tries to kill Nar, but Kusha and Minato jump in the way, stopping her claw. The two then say their last heart-filled words and say that no matter what happens and whatever he becomes, they will always love him. Minato then begs Naruto for forgiveness knowing the life he will live but has faith in his godparents and his student Kakashi and the Sandaime to take care of him. He tells his son he believes he will arise to greatness and to become something greater than he ever was, whether good or bad is irrelevant. All he wishes is that he tries to live a life of peace and to try to have a family of his own. Their final words are to live long and happy and remember they will always be watching him. Nar had no clue when he began crying, but he did not stop them as he let the information he was told sank in. His father was Minato Namikaze, the Yandaime, the same man who sealed the Ari within him. He was honestly happy to know his family after being left in the dark for so long about. That didn't stop the growing lump of hatred and bitterness at not only Konoha but also those close to him. How many knew the truth? How long were they going to keep this from him? Were they ever going to him the truth or would they lie to him until they felt like talking? Nar then felt two pairs of arms encircling him and bringing him into a hug. He turned to see Hinata and Ari giving him a hug. Naruto, I know you are feeling a lot of things, but we need to finish hearing what Shinigami-sama and Ayami-sama have to say. She less than greater than s right, Kit, so clean your nose and wipe the tears. The son of the yellow flash and red sea of carnage should have his head held high. Nar chuckled, but then heard a gasp from the two and saw them looking straight at him. What? He asked. Naruto, why your eyes? They see. Changed. Naruto's eyes changed before taking out a kunai and looking at his reflection on it. His eyes widened when he saw what was looking back at him. His eyes were no longer a deep shade of blue. They were now a blood red with one tamo on the left eye and two tamo on the right eye. Nar was speechless. Sharing. He whispered. Well, this was an expected surprise. Nar looked at the two gods. You see, Naruto, one of the many ways to unlock the sharing is through an emotional or traumatic experience. The reaction of seeing your parents and their death must have awakened it. Wait, if that is true, why did it never awaken before? I have been through enough shitty situations up until now. Why is it only waking up now? Nar asked, generally confused, not noticing Tsunami's glare. Cough. That may be because of me. Nar turned to Ari that was sheepishly scratching the back of her head. What do you mean, Erichan? Nar asked curiously. Well, because of me being sealed within you, it's less than greater than possible that my presence within you suppressed your bloodline from activating. Wait, if that is true, what about my Uzumaki bloodline? Ari shrugged her shoulders. Best guess is that you are the first gentry to be the child of my previous vessel. So as you developed in your mother's womb, my chakra entered your body, helping in your development, which gave you a much higher chakra capacity even for Uzumaki standards. So your body was more accustomed to my chakra than any other Jinchuriki. Not to mention, how are you going to activate a bloodline if you don't know you about it? Hell, I didn't even know your father was part Uchi until now. Nar thought about this explanation before nodding. Well, I can't exactly blame considering all the underscore you have been through and you honestly didn't know. So, I guess I can let this go for now. Ari smiled in gratitude until Tsunami smacked Nar upside the head with a frying pan. Ow, what the hell, Tsunami? Only to be smacked again by a growling Tsunami. Language Nar, I will not have. You corrupt Inari with that foul mouth from either you or to Yuya. Am I clear? She hollered with Nar frantically, nodding while everyone else sweat dropped. Where did she get the frying pan from? Was the only thought the other occupants had. The Shinigami coughed to get the attention back to the matter at hand. Nar, now the reason we have called you here is to give a warning. A darkness is approaching, one that threatens not only the elemental nations, but the rest of the world. You are the only one that can stop this. Nar looked at the two gods as if they had gone insane. What could an exiled Janine do against a threat that will destroy the elemental nations? No amount of shadow clones and resend and spamming will stop them. But I am just a kid with barely any training. What can I achieve on my own? My dear boy, you underestimate the ripples a single person can make to the rest of the world. You have already done many amazing feats for such a young child. Would this be any different for you? You are meant for great things, Naruto Uzumaki. Namikaze. And we never said you will be alone. Nar thought about all the things he has done so far in his career. He inspired a wave to stand up for themselves and to fight for their freedom. He helped Shibuki become the leader of the waterfall village. He helped Gar find a new purpose in life. He got Tsunade out of her depression to become the 5th Hokage. He helped save another country with the mission in Snow Spring and got Koyuki out of her funk to become the ruler her people while also dethroning her evil uncle. Finally, he helped save the land of Tea from being controlled by a shady and corrupted family. However, he got confused by her last statement. You forget all the allies you've made all around the elemental nations, and you have forgotten about your missing Uzumaki brethren. Everyone's eyes widen. What? Nar screamed. Indeed, Nar, your clan still exists, but they have been scattered throughout the elemental nations and have gone into hiding to avoid detection. Many fear if they are found out, they'll be captured and experiment on, or worse yet, turned into breeding machines. We ask this of you, Nar. Find your missing brethren and rebuild Uzu to its former glory. Together with the new Yusuzu and your allies, you should be prepared for the upcoming darkness. You may have been denied being Hokage, but being Yusuzu sounds much more appealing, wouldn't you say? Nar stayed silent, considering the words. He was really liking the deal he was being given. Unite his family once again and fight off whatever this darkness that was approaching. Like the two said, being the best Hokage may be out of his reach, but he can be the best Uzukage that surpasses all other cages in all the elemental nations. He looked to see that everyone was waiting for his answer. He could see that they will stand by whatever decision he makes. He turns to the Shinigami and Izanami. I accept your conditions and I swear to revive my clan and homeland to their former glory. Uzu will rise again and I will be the greatest cage to ever set foot in the elemental nations. You have my word, TTO. Everyone smiled at the fire that was in the boy's eyes. Good. Now just some last minute things have to be addressed. Shinigami said as the two gods snapped their fingers and two giant scrolls appeared. The scrolls then floated until they dropped in front of Nar. Nar, These 2 scrolls contain everything that your parents accumulated in their shinobi career. Use them wisely. Nar nodded before another scroll appeared in front of his line of sight before falling into his hands. That scroll will assist you in training your sharing and the Byakugan for your Hyuga girl. Nar and Hinata nodded in gratitude. The 2 gods then created 2 orbs of energy before they entered Naruto's body. Nar glowed for a bit before it vanished once again. That was a gift from us to you. We hope the power we gave you will come in handy. We have provided a scroll to help you to learn to master the new powers we've granted. Nar nodded in gratitude. Oh, we almost forgot to tell you that since you are the heir, you would fall under the CRA, so you will need multiple wives to help revive the clan to some extent. Nar and Hinata blushed crimson red while Ari giggled pervertedly. But I am dating Hinata now. I don't want to be unfaithful to her. Uma Naroke _ Nar turned to Hinata. That seemed to blush even more. I wouldn't mind sharing you with others as long as you don't go too crazy. It could be fun to have more than one girl with us. Nar and the other mortals just stared slack-jawed at what the young Hyuga was implying, and the other 2 mortal females had a noticeable blush on their faces. Ari just giggled even more while the gods looked amused. Yay, I'm going to have a lot of kidlings to spoil for many years. She cheered happily. This caused Naruto and the other females to blush even more, with Suna laughing, Inari looking confused, and the gods looked close to bursting a gut from the contained laughter. The Shinigami then summoned a crimson orb and sent it into Ari, who glowed for a few minutes before going back to normal. While she looked the same, Ari could feel something different. She felt a hole once again. Hers widened when she realized what the Shinigami had done. He had given her the half that Minato sealed within himself. Snorts. This means she had both sides of her chakra back, and she felt incredible. She was even more powerful than she was when she was first sealed in Mido. This was due in part to her restoring nearly all of her power in her time being sealed in Naruto. Now she felt like she could take on Moa without any trouble. Hell, maybe she could fight an incomplete form of the Jubi. But she knew such a gift comes with a price. Ari the vixen looked up to the visage of the impassive face of the Shinigami. As a show of good faith, I have given back the power that I took from you. This is a peace offering for your second chance. I am also changing the seal, allowing you to come out when you like and to change the mindscape to whatever you like. Nar will also get the key to the seal, and it will be up to him when the seal will be unlocked. Ari bowed in gratitude toward the death, since he had no direct obligation to do this for her. However, Ari looked up to the cold visage of the death god. Remember, we are giving you this chance to live in peace. If you try to take advantage of Naruto or his loved ones, know that no power you obtained will protect you from my wrath. Do you understand? Yoko Arihi nodded very quickly, being very scared of the death god at that moment along with the mortals. The gods then turned their attention back to the mortals. Now, Nar, we will be sending some allies to help you along with your journey. They will prove to be powerful allies, but you must show them that their loyalty will not be misplaced. Do you understand? Nar nodded. Well, Nar, this is goodbye for now. Good luck, young prince. And remember that the gods and your clansmen will always be with you. There was a flash of light that blinded everyone. When Nar regained his bearings, everyone was in the living room of Suna's house with an extra occupant, Ari. So that was not a dream? Inari asked. Nar snorts, shook his head. No, let's less than greater than get some sleep and we will figure out everything tomorrow. Everyone nodded and each went to their beds to let their minds digest the information they were given. Nar and Hinata shared one bed as he closes his eyes. One thought was on his mind throughout the whole. I'll make you proud, Ka-chan. 2-chan Yusuzu will rise. Again. Damn it. Nar shouted again. Kid roared Ari. Nar grunted before getting up again with his sharing inactive attempting to track the movements of the fox girl. Nar then created several shadow clones as they all began to encircle the vixen. Ari looked amused, waiting to see which will make the first move. One of the clones made the first move. Raiden A. Zaker screamed the clone as he fired arc of lightning from his mouth toward the vixen, who lazily slaps the it away as it exploded off to the side end, creating a cloud of smoke that covered the area. Ari was undeterred and continued to wait for her kit's next move. She did not need to wait long as a volley of over 40 shuriken and kana came flying her. She quickly took notice of the tags on the flying projectiles before cocking her arm and swinging forward while shouting. KOB Twister. A powerful whirlwind formed, catching all the kunai and shuriken before they all exploded in a flash of light. Ari quickly covered her eyes so she would not be blinded by the flash of light. She hears a twitch from behind her and uses her tails to attack the assailant. She turned to see 3 of her tails had impaled 4 of the clones Nar made. 2 more came in from the sides to attack her. The 2 began to engage the vixen in a series of taijutsu, but it was still child's play for the fox to parry, block, and counter each one of the clones' attacks. Ari finally grabbed the 2 by the neck and snapping them and causing them to pop. Well, kid, what's next? 3 of the clones raised their arms and created a Risennen in each of their hands. The 3 charged at the vixen, who was prepared to counter this rush assault but got surprised when the clones slammed the Rinnegan to the ground, causing a crater to form. The shockwave caused Ari to falter for a few seconds, but it was enough for the original to come and throw a right hook at Ari. The Raven vixen barely managed to move as the attack grazed her cheek. She retaliated by throwing a right hook at the blonde. Nar could see the fist as it slowly inched closer and closer to his face. His eyes followed the movement as it continued towards him. Nar could feel the strain in his eyes, but pushed past it and forced his body to react to the image that was being poured into his brain. As the fist made its final arc, Nar managed to tilt his head. As the fist passed by his cheek, Nar felt excitement flow his body. He did it. He finally got his body to react to his sharing visual prowess. He now understood how much trouble Sasaki had when he fought Rock Lee. However, his glee of victory disappeared in an instant as he felt his gut exploded in pain from a fist being slammed into him. The next thing he felt was being sent flying back and slamming into a tree. Hard Gao, he cried as he coughed up blood. Narokan. Hinata screamed in worry. Ari sighed before relaxing from her battle stance. Hinata, go check on him. We're done for now. Hinata did not need to be told twice as she rushed to her boyfriend's side, who was struggling to get back on his feet and failing miserably. Hinata reached him and quickly slung an arm over him to help him stand up on his feet. Ari continued to look at her stubborn kit. Even when his body was screaming at him to stay down, he just kept trying to stand up. Ari sighed before she looked up to the sky to see that the sky was a deep orange. Time really flies when you are having fun. Torture training. She meant training. Yes, that was what she meant. She leaked a training of her 3 kids. Nar, she called out to the blonde who looked up to her expectantly. It's getting late. Time to head back to Suna's place. Ari said. Nar looked like he wanted to retort, but the look that Ari and Hinata gave him caused him to close his mouth. His body had reached its limit for the day, and it was time to rest. The 3 then made their way back to their unofficial home, to Zuna's house. Dinner at Tuna's residence was lively as ever. Hinata helped Tsunami make dinner with Ari and Tuya helping pass the food along. It's been almost 2 weeks since the conversation with the 2 deities, and some things have changed. Ari had taken upon herself to train Naruto as a ninja. When testing Naruto's affinity, she was surprised to see that Nar had 3 elemental affinities, which is a rarity for anyone to have when they begin elemental manipulation training. But this was Nar, so she shouldn't expect any less. Plus, this might have been an effect from the Shinigame's gift. In terms of training, Ari mainly focused on his chakra control, taijutsu, enjutsu, and fujutsu. She also assisted Naruto with his sharing, with Hinata assisting since she experienced in using a dojutsu along with the scroll given to help both of them. Suna wanted to contact all of the allies that Nar made around the elemental nations and tell them what happened to Nar, which would lead them to break their ties with Konoha. But Nar asked him to hold off on that. When asked, Nar explained that if they break their alliance now, then Konoha would do everything in their power to drag him back into Konoha, whether he liked it or not. Worst yet, he might be brainwashed and turn him into their living puppet and use him as leverage against them. Suna and the rest of his family have to reluctantly agreed and held off of sending notices about deserting Konoha, but will inform them that eventually Naruto would meet with them to speak about his future plans, but that was when Ari decided when they were ready for it. So, Arian, how goes the brat training? Nar gained a tick mark on his head from Suna's brat comment, but otherwise made no rise. Well, he still is a little sloppy in execution. But he is improving, if only slightly, Ari said as she enjoyed the look on Naruto's face. Nar gained several more ticks and his patience was waning. Before he could retort, Ari began to speak again with an amused tone in her voice. He finally has control over the Shadow Shuriken, Shadow Kunai and Shadow Clone explosion jutsus, and he can finally perform the Rinnegan with one arm. So that's an achievement, she said. Tuna patted Nar on the back, which nearly made the blonde choke on his food, with Hinata and Tuya doing their best to help him swallow. Suna just continued to laugh until smacked him across the head with a frying pan. Inari just smiled to all this in amusement. Ari Sanunami asked after punishing her father. Hi hummed as she looked at the widowed housewife. How have the girls been in their training? Plus what will Naruken be doing next? Tsunami curiously asked. Ari scratched her chin in thought. The girls have been progressively well for almost 2 weeks. Hinata is improving her reserves and can now perform the Kaden with little trouble. Although the 64 palms is still a bit much for her, but I can guarantee by the end of this month she'll have it done. I managed to teach her the Shadow Clone and Water Clone Jutsu, but she can only one for each and not at the same time. Tuya has also been growing smoothly. I have increased her arsenal of genjutsu that she can perform them with and without her flute. I even got her to learn the same jutsus that Nar has learned. Lastly, she been learning about seals along with the kit. Nar is around low to mid tunin. Tuya is around mid to high. Jonin due to her being exposed to barriers and seals from Orochimaru. The one good thing that Pedo Snake did for her. Ari explained. What about those chains that Kusha-san used? Ari Enshin Inari asked. That got everyone's attention. They all wondered Ari he had not helped Nar and possibly to Yuya to see if they are capable of using the chakra chains. From the memories they saw from Kusha, the chains would be a valuable asset if they are capable of holding the strongest Beiju. Not to mention, they have Kusha's scrolls on the chains. So, what was the problem? The answer is quite simple. I am not sure if either of the kits have the ability to make those chains. While Naruto has a higher chance of having them due to his mother, his chakra control is still lacking. I need to improve his chakra control before attempting to see if he has the chains. Ari said as she looked at Nar, who was looking back intently. You learning to perform the Rinnegan with one hand was your first step in improving your control. I plan to take your control even further. When you reach at least low Jan level control, that's when we'll start working on the chains. Both of you, I mean. Nar and Tuya nodded, accepting the logic. Both knew they can't rush into this or they may cause permanent damage to their bodies. Healing factor or not, Nar knew even he had limits to what he can recover from. Thankfully, thanks to the influence of Ari and Hinata, Naruto's patience has improved and he has been learning to keep his temper in check. This is especially was important to have when he got frustrating in trying to understanding his parents' notes on the sealing arts. No one ever said that learning seals would be easy. What about the powers the Shinigami gave me? Nar asked. Ari sighed. Everyone was listening intently. Ari had mentioned before that she would enter the seal on occasion and try to figure out what the orbs the Shinigami gave Nar. Ari nodded. Yes, I believe the Shinigami granted you something similar to a bloodline with one of the orbs. A very powerful one at that, but the other one is still a mystery. Do you know what the bloodline entails? Nar asked. He was curious about the second orb, but knew its abilities will eventually be revealed when necessary. Ari nodded. From the scroll, the Shinigami calls it the Sky Release Bloodline. It complements your affinities for wind, lightning, and water. You'll be able to freely to manipulate, control, and absorb the elements without the need of hand signs. You can also combine the elements with one another. You can combine wind and water to form ice release, water and lightning to form storm release, and wind and lightning to form the swift release. And finally, you'll be able to combine all three affinities, create and command all types of weather patterns at will. Honestly, it's an appropriate bloodline for someone of the Uzumaki clan, Ari explained. Everyone's jaw just dropped at what they just heard. That had to be one of the most broken bloodline abilities they have ever heard. Nar would be the equivalent of a god on earth. Nar had stars in his eyes. This sounded like the bloodline expansion that he caught a glimpse of his imperance notes. This will be perfect for him to help rebuild Yusuzu and to fight off the Akatsuki or Oimaru, the impending darkness that is approaching or anything else that will threaten his loved ones. Nar got out of his daydream when Ari addressed him. G-men Ari-chan, can you repeat that? Nar said sheepishly. Ari just shook her head in amusement. Nar, this power along with the other one will affect to your body. This got everyone slightly concerned. What do you mean? Will my body not be able to handle it? Nar asked. Ari shook her head. It's more likely that your body will adapt and absorb the power the more you use it. The thing is that this may change your biology into something else. What exactly you'll become at the end, I am not sure. However, I can guarantee one thing. You won't be human anymore, she said. Nar lowered his head in contemplation while everyone else remained silent. No longer human. For years, he had tried to prove others he was not a demon, that he was human just like everyone else. But as he traveled to other countries and saved them in some way, the people always treated him like a hero. Nami proved this when no one abandoned him when they found out he was the Kyobi Jinchuriki. In fact, they looked up to him even more. Now he finds out that to bring back Uzushioka and his clan, he may have to give up his humanity. No, that's not exactly right. Nar shook his head. Nar, I know this difficult. Ari began. No. Nar cut her off. Ari just looked confused. What? She asked. You're wrong, he said. Ari now tilted her head. What do you mean? She asked as Naruto sighed. You say that if I accept these powers that I will become something else, something that's not human. But answer me, Ari, what do you define as being human? That everyone gained a thoughtful expression. Is it having a mortal body that eventually dies? Is it a being that can wield chakra, a flawed species that is prejudiced to their own kind for the most pathetic of reasons? Ari and everyone else flinched at the last one. Being human can mean a lot of things, and each person has their own reason for following their meaning of that. Zabuza always believed himself to be a demon, a monster with no feelings of love or compassion. And yet he shed tears for the loss of Haku, a demon capable of shedding tears. You are proof as well. You feel guilt and shame for what happened to my parents. That mean that what matters is the heart and soul of a being that defines if a person is still human. No matter what happens, I will remain unchanged. Even if I become a demon or something else, I'll never let go of my principles. Everyone looked at Pride and none more so than Ari. Maybe he'll be the one. All right, you've won me over. I'll help you master your powers to the best of my abilities, she finally said. So, how long will the process take for me to not become human? I think the simplest way to say is that you'll become a Hanyu, half human and half yokai. She said this piqued everyone's interest as they have heard of many legends and folktales on yokai. What type of Hanu and how long? Naruto asked, generally curious on what type of Hanu he'll become. I would say fox since I was the demon influencing your growth, but who knows? The power might change you into something else based on the Shinigami's preference. Although you'll show signs soon enough. As for how long, I will say around 2 to 3 years. Depending on how reckless you are with the powers, Nar just pouted with all the girls giggling at Naruto's antics. After dinner, Nar asked Ari and Suna to stay behind to talk about something. I want to head to Uzu tomorrow. Ari looked curious at her vessel. Why? She asked. I want to see my homeland, and we might find some valuable stuff there if we go digging around, he explained. Ari nodded. He was right. There would be plenty of valuable treasures left behind by the Uzumaki clan. Treasures that can help Naro in rebuilding the village and bring in allies to the village. All right, I agree with the idea. Plus, it gave us an idea of how long construction will take. Suna said. The three went to bed with Ari going to the guest bedroom and nod back into the seal. But for Naruto, it was just the beginning. Nar opens his eyes to find himself in an endless black void. What the hell? Where the hell am I? Hinata, Ari, anyone? A dark chuckle filled the void. Hee hee, it good to see you again, Hikari. It's been far too long. The dark voice said, who are you? Show yourself to me, Naruto shouted to the void. The dark voice simply chuckled even more in amusement. So demanding, Hikari, but if you insist, the dark voice said. Nar then felt himself be hoisted up into air by the collar. Naruto's eyes widened as he was face to face with an exact duplicate of himself. The difference being the twin had black spiky hair with red eyes and black clura. Who are you? His evil twin began to chuckle. You can call me Yummy. I am your inner darkness. Yummy began to tighten his hold on Naruto's collar, making lose even more of his limited air supply. What do you want? Nar choked out. Yummy less than greater than S eyes gained a dangerous glint. You have locked me away for so long. I don't appreciate that. I don't know what you're talking. Nar rasped out. Yummy simply chuckled again. All will be revealed in time. But I'll let you go with this warning. Unless you confront your past, then you will never master that power. Naruto's eyes widen. Was he talking about the yokai power? Yummy just smiled. Until next time, Hikari. Yummy proceeds to snap Naruto's neck. Nar woke up with a start. He looked out to see that it was still late at night. He turns to see Hinata in her sleeping gown. He sighed. His inner darkness, confront his past. Why can nothing be simple? His musings were cut when he heard some moaning from Hinata. Mima Narun more. She moaned out. Nar blushed wondering what erotic dream was Hinata was having. He gave her peck on lips before going back to sleep. The next morning, Naruto had explained the dream to Ari. The Raven Vixen told him to ignore that until after their return from Usuzu. The group got a ship from Suna's friends and made their journey to Usuzu. The trip to Yusuzu was rather long due to not knowing exactly how to get there, even with a map and Aries' memory of how to get there. Hinata would blush as she looked at Nar. Her erotic dream from last night left her rather heated up. Nar saw this and would continually tease the girl, getting her a lot more aroused than before and unaware he was drawing the attention of two of the other females on the boat. Nar and company decided to take this time to work on some chakra control exercises. This went on for several hours until they finally reached the outskirts of Shiogakure but were unable to continue to the island of Yusuzu. The reason there were several whirlpools all around the island completely separating the island from the rest of the world. Everyone was shocked. How the hell were they supposed to get through that? Oh, come on. Can anything be simple for once for us? Well, this is just fan-fucking-tastic. What do we do now? Well, this plan went to the Sid rather quickly. Bang. Two people were holding their heads from the pain of being hit once again with a frying pan, courteously of Tsunami. Ari just laughed and explained that Nar needed to perform a set of hand signs that open up a path for them to go through. Ari then put one of her tails on Naruto's forehead as she passed the memories of what hand signs he needed to perform. Nar then walked forward before jumping into the water but not falling into it by using the water walking technique. He walked up close to the waterfalls but stopped just far enough that he would not be swept in by the strong tides. He then begins a complex series of hand signs before slamming his hands on the water's surface. Utsumaki's secret art, pathway of the sea's jutsu. At first, nothing happened. Everyone except Ari wondered if Naruto did something wrong. That was until the water began to quake and the surrounding area began to churn. Then, to the amazement of everyone's eyes, the whirlpools began to disappear until they vanished as if they were never there. Everyone just gobsmacked at the scene before Ari told them they shouldn't wait too long and should quickly sail into Yusuzu. It only took 15 minutes to get to the shores of Yusuzu Shiok. When they landed, they could see that the sand and vegetation was still growing and flourishing as if time stopped and nothing had touched the land. Well, except for the several skeletons and remains that can be seen scattered across the sand. The group then began walking until they reached the withered gates that led to the entrance of the village. Everyone had trepidation about entering, especially Naruto and Tuya, but they did not know what to expect. As the group entered the gates, the sight they saw was rather disheartening. The village was in complete ruins. Buildings had crumpled long ago with vegetation taking over. Many sections of the village had sunk into the sea due to time. However, the surprise was that there were no bodies anywhere, which made no sense. There should be several remains of the countless lives lost when Uzu was ransacked. The several craters and remains of scorch marks proved there was a battle here. So, where the hell were the bodies? Ari then explained that many of the Uzumaki clan probably activated a special seal that destroyed their bodies so one could have their secrets while also taking their enemies with them. Ari then instructed Naruto to make as many clones as possible along with Tuya and to spread throughout the village and collect every valuable item that they could find. The group began looking around, marveling that many of the buildings that still remained slightly intact. They soon reached a large building that was similar to the Hokage Tower. Once they reached inside to find the place barely standing with holes all over the building and most of the roof had collapsed long ago, the group looks around trying to find anything that was worthwhile. Nar separated from the group as he was drawn to a flight of stairs that was barely being kept together. He quickly went up the stairs before walking down a hallway until he reaches a room. Nar enters a room that's very similar to the Hokage office. He looked around to see that the room was relatively still intact, minus the shattered glass and several parts of the room falling apart. He walked over to the table in the middle. The chair was in pieces and most of the drawers were gone. Nar then notices something on the ground. He picks it up and finds out that it's a photo. He turned it and gasps at what he sees. A man in 60s with short white spiky hair and beard wearing the traditional cage robes and hat. Next to him was beautiful red-haired woman with teal-colored eyes. The thing that drew his attention was the small 6 or 7-year-old girl in the picture. He recognized the girl because how she looked as a grown-up, and she had not changed much in those years. It was Kusha Uzumaki, his mother. Does that mean the two in the picture are his grandparents? He ponders if this is the last picture of all three of them together. He looks back at the ground to see a seal array on the ground. Curious but cautious, he creates a shadow clone to release the seal in case of a trap. Thankfully, no trap was sprung, but a letter did pop out. Curious, Nar began to read the letter. Later on, everyone begins to worry about what happened to Nar. After locating his position and carefully going up the stairway, they find Nar trembling while he silently sobbed. Everyone grows concerned and are about to ask what's wrong when they see him clutching a letter in his hand. Ari slowly takes the letter. She turns to see Naruto clutching a photo but focuses on the letter in her hand. She looks up to everyone and they all nod, and Ari soon begins to read it. If you are reading this, then it means Yusuzu has more than likely fallen to our enemies. We have all fought valiantly. But it seems our time has come. This war has cost the lives of many in the battlefield and in my home. So many of my brothers and sister I've had to bury, including my own wife. The only source of comfort I have is that my beloved daughter escaped the chaos. I pray that Mido will guide her with the time she has left and the burden she'll soon carry. Kusha, my daughter, you are always my pride and joy. Yusuzu may fall today, but Yusuzu is not a place but its people. Our brethren will scatter, but I know you will bring them back together. You are the future and our salvation along with any children you may have. Good luck, my daughter, and never let the Uzumaki die with you. Love always, your father, Garpuzumaki. Everyone had tears in their eyes as all the girls all tried to console Nar until they felt something was off. Power was emanating from Nar as he was soon enveloped in a black aura as blue lightning began dancing around him. Nar had never felt so angry before. His family, his clan, his people, everything that was rightly his was stolen from him. Nar gave off a roar of rage and anguish. Lightning exploded off his body as he released a beam of energy into the sky. When everyone regained their bearings, they looked towards Nar and were shocked at what they were seeing. Nar was hunched over, but the changes to his physical appearance were very apparent. His nails had become sharp, like claws. His hair had become wild and untamed with silver highlights. His birthmarks had become much dark in appearance. Several parts of his body was covered in black markings. His eyes were slitted and glowed a menacing blue as lightning flew out of his eyes and his teeth became sharp as his fangs protruded from his lips. However, the most shocking physical change were the dark wings that protruded from Naruto's back. They were multi-layered and similar in structure to a bird's, but the wings seemed more scaly and had silver markings all over them. The other thing everyone noticed was the dark silhouette that formed above Nar. It was in the shape of a monstrous quadrupedal creature with Naruto's wings. Everyone stared wide eyes at this. What is that? They all thought except Ari, who looked in shock at the silhouette. Of all creatures, the Shinigami chooses that. A creature of legend that could rival my siblings and myself in actual power and abilities. I don't know if I should be relieved or worried at the power that'll be in Naruto's disposal. Ari thought in awe and some arousal. Nar continued to glare at the ground, feeling more anger than he ever had before. He had noticed the differences to his body, but paid them little attention. Congratulations, Hikari. You've unlocked a portion of the dragon power within you. But make no mistake, until you face me, you'll never master this power fully. Yummy. Nar said to him. Nar paid little mind to Yummy less than greater than S rambling for the moment. He had bigger things to worry about. He turned to everyone with a burning gaze of determination. This will not be the end. This is far from the end. I will not their sacrifice be vain. My brethren, my clan, my people, my grandfather will not have died in vain. Yusuzu will rise to glory once again. It took some time for Naruto to calm down and be able to retract the extra appendages and transformation. Ari said that he probably won't be able to use those appendages again until he more control of the power, and they can't ever rely on him always getting emotional to use that power. Hinata and Tuya commented that they like the wings. This got them kisses on the cheek which caused the two to blush. Ari pouted that she did not get a peck on the cheek. However, when Nar was about to give her one, she turned her head and Nar gave her a kiss on the lips. Nar moved back with his face red as Ari giggled in victory as she walked away. The girls, not wanting to be outdone by the fox vixen, each gave Nar a kiss on the lips. Before walking away, Nar just stood frozen before he regained his senses as he followed them to find more valuable items. The rest of the day was spent on collecting anything they could find and planting a seal to allow them to teleport whenever they want without having to travel by sea thanks to Ari. Although they will have to test it with a shadow clone to be safe. The group returned to find that someone was waiting for them. This person was a pale-skinned woman with dark purple hair and reddish-brown eyes. She had a rather voluptuous figure and was wearing a long revealing violet dress sporting a striped pattern. All the guys blushed as the girls minus Ari glared at the woman in envy. "Hello, how may I help you?" Tuna asked politely. The woman smiled. "I was sent here to help Naruto," she replied. This caused everyone to perk up. "Me? Not to be rude, but why would such a pretty lady like yourself want to help me?" Nar asked as he pointed to himself. The woman just smiled in amusement. "Ah, thank you, Naruto. You're as cute as I was told." She giggled with Nar blushing a storm while Hinata and Tuya were not the least bit amused. "To answer your question, of course, I came to help you. Why else would the Shinigami bring me here?" she said innocently. That made everyone stiff as their eyes widened. She couldn't mean why. "You mean you're a Nar?" stuttered out as the woman nodded. "Yes, I will be one of the many allies that the Shinigami will bring to you. My name is Ultier Milovich. I am a half-blood or demigod to some, daughter of a mortal. And a god. I am the daughter of Media, goddess of magic, and we have much to discuss." "Narcown," she ended with a lustful purr as he glopped Nar into a hug with his head between her breasts. Tuna glared in envy. Tsunami blushed as she covered Inari's eyes. Hinata and Tuya glared in envy and jealousy for the woman's figure, and Ari just giggled in amusement at the scene. Things were just getting interesting for the future Uzukage. The first mission of the seas. 1 month has passed since the young woman known as Ultier came into the lives of Nar and company. It had been a Wrath-era interesting experience for all of them. Ultier explained that the Shinigami brought her to assist Naruto in his development and to help him and his allies in the recreation of Uzushiok. She also explained that the Shinigami may bring others to assist as powerful allies and perhaps something more for Nar. This got Nar and the girls except Ari to blush a deep crimson. What didn't help was Altier's chest bouncing in front of him as she teased Nar. The blonde teen could do nothing but faint after the overstimulating image, which got a giggle out of Ultier and Ari. Ultier then explained that one of the things she wants to teach Nar and the others about is magic. This surprised Nar and the rest as they believed that magic could only be found in fairy tales. However, Altair explained that magic has been part of human civilization just like chakra. After all, chakra existed in everyone and no one became apparent of it until Kaya awakened it within her. Her sons then taught the rest of their followers how to unlock it as well. Magic works the same way. The biggest difference being that magical energy is created by absorbing particles from nature known as ether nanoparticles. Once a person's magical container is awakened in a person, they automatically absorb the particles into their bodies to replenish any depletion of their magical energy. There are also several types of magic just like with jutsu. Altair offered her vast knowledge of magic for them to use as they liked. Nar and the others were ecstatic. This could really be useful for them and could be a useful edge against their enemies. Each of them decided to learn some basic magic before getting into the more complex subjects. Nar stated they should all put some focus on learning teleportation and telepathy magic. This intrigued everyone and explained that being able to communicate with everyone on the fly without interference and teleport to one another when there's danger will be a very important skill to have for themselves and for their allies. Everyone agreed to that logic and began to set aside time to learn telepathy and teleportation magical. While this went on, Hinata asked Altair and Ari for advice on herbs and other plants that could be crushed and mixed to make more potent healing herbs and poisons, which the two were happy to show her. Altair also gave her some books on water and wind applications in the medical field along with several others on human anatomy and biology. Hinata took this with great appreciation along with the other books and scrolls she borrowed from Naruto's collection that came from Yusuzu and his parents. Speaking of that incident, ever since that day, Nar trained like a man possessed. He continuously worked with his element and chakra manipulation along with getting a much better handle with his sharing. Although he still had 2 Tamo, but that was a temporary setback for now. His efforts even left Ari stunned as he continued to pile all of the training regiments and barely stopped until he collapsed on the floor from exhaustion. The overzealous determination helped him grow. And with his ability to create hundreds of shadow clones, Naruto's abilities shot through the roof. He had a much better handle of his elements and could now perform jutsu for each of them. Although he still did not have the timing or skill to manipulate 2 of the elements together to create a jutsu, but he was getting there. His skills at sealing were now at low to mid-Jan along with his chakra control. This meant that Naruto and Tuya could finally start to learn how to use the chakra chains of the Uzumaki clan. The two were progressing quite well in the Vixen's opinion. They had also been studying everything they acquired from Yusuzu, which seems to be a surprise after surprise. They remembered to set the whirlpools up again to keep unknown strangers out while they used teleportation seals to send Suna and his workers into Uzu to work on restoring and reconstructing the island village and to return back to Wave. Suna mentioned he got in contact with all Naruto's allies and they all agreed to maintain their alliance for the time being until Naruto can get Uzu off its feet. Inari was learning to gain access to his chakra system and also magic with everyone else. The most drastic change to Naruto was in his attire. All of the girls with Suna's family backing them up told him that the orange jumpsuit had to go for several reasons. 1. The thing made Nar look like he just came from a prison asylum. 2. He only wore that suit in particularly because it was the only thing he could afford and he wanted to gain the attention of Konoha, something he no longer desired or wanted. Finally, the suit made him too recognizable. So, Naruto changed his outfit with suggestions from Altair, Ari, and Hinata. His new attire consisted of dark blue ninja pants with black sandals wrapped in red tape. On his arms, he wore black arm warmers that reached just below his shoulders and were also covered in the same red tape. He wore a skin-tight black tank top. On top of this, He wore a black cloak with a white fur lining around the neck with a clear cape on his back that went down to his shins. The Uzumaki symbol was placed on the back and the sides of the shoulder. The finally piece to the outfit was a white kitsune mask. The unique ability of the mask is that once placed on his face, his hair changed from sun-kissed blonde to jet black. Basically, Menma's outfit from RTN except the cloak is not as long and the symbols are the Uzumaki red spirals. Needless to say, it was vast improvement if the blushes from Hinata and Tuya and sexy smirks from Ultier and Ari were anything to go by. The last noticeable things to occur in the month was Naruto taking Hinata and Tuya on a date. Hinata's date included a nice dinner before taking walk alongside the beach before sitting down to have a drink and toast to a bright future. The date ended with a very heated and make-out session between the two lovebirds. The date, with Tuya, was nothing as extravagant. It was a simple picnic at the top of hill near a waterfall that gave a nice view of Nami under the moon. Nar was going to give her a light kiss on the lips. But Tuya, getting a bit impatient, pounced on Nar and proceeded to give the blonde a very aggressive but passionate kiss that Nar easily returned. Now Tuya joins Nar and Hinata in the same bed. Ari didn't seem put off that she didn't get a date. She said she's a patient vixen. And when Naruto is ripe and juicy, she'll pounce on him. She ended it by giving Naruto a very wet and sensational French kiss before walking off. All the while giving Naruto a nice view of her plump ass as she swayed her hips. The scary exciting part was that Altier was giving him the same predatory look that Ari before kissing him. All in all, it was a very productive month for everyone. We now find everyone enjoying some relaxation from their current activities. The air was getting rather chilly as winter was fast approaching. Snow was an inevitability, so work was going to be slowed down due to the weather conditions. Everyone was enjoying a nice cup of hot chocolate as they enjoyed the quiet evening. Tuna had come back exhausted from his hard work on the island. Normally, restoration work like Yusuzu would take years, if not a few decades at least. But thanks to Nar and his ability to create hundreds of clones along with their allies discreetly sending supplies, work was going at a much faster pace. Suna estimated that Yusuzu should be restored in around 4 years. Though that's just the physical aspect. They still needed people to live on the island and have it financially back. But that can wait. They had plenty of time. They just had to take this one step at a time. Nar was currently on the couch as he was snuggled with the girls, each taking a side and enjoying the peaceful tranquility. However, Nar was cut from his musing when Suna called him over. "What's up? Something wrong with the reconstruction?" he asked. Tuzuna shook his head. No, the reconstruction is going great, thanks to you and your allies. I swear I will never understand how your village did not see that you're like a gold mine in getting allies. Nar just chuckled. Yeah, you can blame that on their naivety, arrogance, and stupidity. Nar replied and Suna nodded. Can't argue with that, he said. So, what did you want to talk about? Nar asked again. Well, one of my pals came back from his usual trip to the land of sea. The place is known for exotic items and its amazing fish. It's one of our best customers to trade with, and their items are usually at high prices in other nations. Suna explained. Nar could tell something was off. I am guessing something has gone wrong, right? Yeah, my friend told me that recently a lot of the fishermen and locals have been disappearing. The natives say this is the cause of some sea monsters. Nar titled his head sea monsters. Yeah, they come from the depths of the ocean and grab whoever is unlucky to be in their line of path and they're never seen again. Nar looked skeptical at this. No offense to Zuna, that sounds to me like some local superstition. What would interest me in this? Well, the thing is that around 10 years ago, a similar series of disappearances occurred. Naruto's eyebrow rose at this. So, the two are connected. Tuna nodded. I believe so, especially after hearing this tidbit of information. Around that time, the locals said that a shinobi came to do some research on one of these islands. A ninja from Konoha, now Tuna, had Naruto's attention to the story. According to the locals' descriptions, that ninja was Orochimaru. Naruto's eyes and the eyes of everyone else widen. Orochimaru, they all shouted. Yep, I couldn't believe it either, which is why I decided to take this more seriously and tell you about it. Nar looked deep in thought. So if Orochimaru is behind these disappearances, what could he be doing there now? Suna and the rest shrugged. Nar was trying to think of a reason of why Orochimaru would be back on the island until he remembered something. You know, when I was traveling with Jarrett to Fines, I read through some of his journals and he recorded that Orochimaru had several hidden bases all around the elemental nations. This got everyone's attention. So, it's possible that Orochimaru has a base in the land of sea. Tsunami asked. Nar nodded. But what could he be doing there? I mean, he has Sasaki. What else could he want? Hinata asked. According to Jiraiya's journals, he was always obsessed with gaining immortality to learn every jutsu in existence. He also had an unhealthy obsession with bloodlines, especially the sharing, so he could be experimenting on people like before. Suna asked in disgust. Nar nodded. Everyone was looking at Nar and saw a glint in his eyes. A glint they understood all too well. So I take it you want to go investigate this? Suna asked. Naruto nodded. Yeah, this is too good opportunity to get a lead on Orochimaru. He said. Naruto, what will we do if we run into Sasaki? Hinata asked in concern. Last time the two fought they nearly killed each other. Then we do our best to ignore him. Sasaki is currently the least of my concerns. However, if we are forced to confront him, then we hit hard and swiftly. Anything that can slow down Orochimaru is a victory for us, he explained. Everyone nodded at this. Nar then turned to the bridge builder Tazuna. Can your friend take us to the land of sea tomorrow? He asked. Yeah, just leave it to me and you'll have a boat early in the morning. Everyone nodded before they all went to bed. The following morning, Nar and his team were getting ready to embark on their journey. Nar left a supercharged clone to continue working with Suna with the reconstruction. Suna was worried it would eventually pop, but Nar said he pumped it with almost all his chakra along with some of Ares. The clone also had preservation seals on it to keep it from disappearing for some time. Suna appreciated Naruto's participation in the restoration. Ultier also left a clone in case anything happened, as she wanted to join the group so they could all bound together as a team and as lovers. That last one got all of them minus blushing. None more so than Nar even under his mask. Nar looked behind to see his team well more than just a team. They were lovers. They were a family. It made him sniff to finally have something like this, especially after his horrendous team in Konoha. He turned to see Ari give him a gentle smile. He almost forgot that Ari was an empath, especially for negative emotions. He gave a nod of appreciation before getting on the boat. They bid their farewells to Suna's family as they began their journey to the land of sea. The trip itself was meant to take around a few days, a week at best. Nar, Yuya, and Hinata took this opportunity to do some light training, which meant working on their control to make sure it was in tip-top shape. The nights were rather eventful as all the girls took turns to cuddle with Nar, which also came with some very heated makeout sessions. Although Ari and Altair would get way more frisky with their hands as they teased the blonde with their bodies. Thankfully, they never went too far, but their teasing was pushing Naruto's hormones to the breaking point. It was early in the afternoon when they reached the mainland port that trades with the land of sea. They quickly disembarked and wanted to start looking for any suspicious activities when they heard some screaming. All of them quickly rushed to the source and were shocked at what they were seeing. They were in the middle of the main market, and several civilians were being attacked by several creatures that looked like a cross between a regular person and some type of fish. Nar then looked at the girls. Girls, you know the drill. Hinata and Tuya, transform to conceal your appearance and make sure to only take them down when you're alone with the rest of us. The two girls nodded as they did the transformation jutsu. Tuya had black hair with silver eyes while Hinata had blonde hair with golden eyes. Nar nodded at the transformations. Now let's take them down hard and fast. Nar then created a few clones before they all jumped into the fray. One of the fishmen was about to attack a young girl when it was sent flying back by a powerful roundhouse kick. The other fisherman and the scared locals turned to see Naruto in his masked disguise. I will give one chance. Give up and surrender or fight and I kill you all. What will it be? Nar warned. The fishermen decided to take a third option as they all ran as fast as they could and jumped into the water. One of the fishmen stayed behind and turned to Nar. Nar noticed it was Fish Girl with pale yellow skin with light green fish scales. She glared at Nar before jumping into the water and disappearing. Nar then turned to see all of the natives rushing towards him and shouting words of gratitude to him. The girls watched in amusement as Nar was bombarded by the people giving their gratitude. Suddenly, a middle-aged man approached the masked blonde. Thank you for saving my people, young man. Nar waved him off. It's no problem. It was the least I could do. Although I did not expect those things so soon when I arrived here. By the way, young man, I must ask. Are you or any of your companions, shinobi? Yes, myself and my companions are all freelance shinobi. This seemed to lift the spirits of some of the locals. Then please follow us. We could really use your help. They all began moving into the port's meeting hall. So, mister, my name is Hito. Nar nodded. Can you explain what's been going on here? It all started a few months ago when many of our local fishermen began disappearing left and right. When we tried to search for them, we were attacked by those creatures. The group saw how many of the locals bowed their heads as they shook in their place in silent rage. It continued like this until they began attacking in broad daylight and even attacking some of ships that enter and leave our ports. This has gotten very bad because one of our trading ships that is constantly attacked by those things. Nar could only look in pity. If things continue the way they are now, then this land will crumble. Look, I understand the distress you are feeling right now, and we are willing to help you settle this. Nar said as everyone else nodded. One of the men scoffed. How do we know we can rely on any of you? None of you look like much. Hell, you're wearing a damn mask. I wear this mask to hide my identity from strangers. I won't trust my identity to people I just met, regardless of who they are. Plus, we are the only help you have. And if we leave now, how long will it be before you'll actually get help from one of the ninja villages? If they even send help at all, Hito and many others began to go on their hands and knees. Please, we will reward you handsomely if you help us. But Nar waved him off. He didn't need money, but this gave him an idea. We will discuss rewards after we have helped you. Nar said, can I ask for your name? Hito asked, my name is Menma. Menma Uzukas. These are my allies, Ari, Rina, and Kagura. Nar introduced them. Please, someone take them to one of our hotel rooms. The group then went to settle in and work out their next move. Sometime later that night, Nar was walking alone as he was enjoying the nice breeze with the salty air of the sea. Nar heard something ahead and saw several kids throwing stones at a young girl on the ground. The sight filled Nar with a large amount of rage as released potent amount of ki as he shouted at them. Hey, you shitty BRZ. Cut that underscore, out. The children all went running in fear. Nar sighed as he turned to see the girl looking at him with weary eyes. Nar reached out to help her up, but the girl just slapped it away before slowly standing up and walking away. Her eyes, they looked like mine once upon a time, he thought before turning around and going back to his hotel room. As Nar was walking back to the hotel, he felt a pulse. He turned his head to the side of a building. He narrowed his eyes. I know I felt something, he thought before shrugging it off and disappearing in a shushin. Suddenly, two figures appeared on the building Naruto was looking at. Phew, that was close. One of the goons said, we less than greater than LL need to be careful with that one and his allies, said the other. Unknown location. It's less than greater than an honor to see you again, Orochimaru-sama, said a man in white lab coat. It has been too long, Amachi. The snake Sonin said. Amachi then noticed a young boy next to the bandaged Sonin. This must be the young you have taken under your wing. Amok said before he was bombarded by a very potent ki from Sasaki. I would refrain from talking to me. Trash like you should not talk so easily to your betters. He said in an arrogant tone. Now Sasuke underscore, don't let Amachi words anger you. Why don't you go and take some fresh air? Sasaki calmed down before scoffing and walking away. You must forgive Sasaki. He has a rather nasty temper. Orochimaru said in an amused tone. I'm surprised that you haven't taken his body yet. Amachi said in confusion. He knew how obsessed the Sonin was with the Uchiha's body. So now that he had it, what was he waiting for? Orochimaru simply chuckled in amusement. All in good time. I have waited for some time. A few more years won't less than greater than T bother me, he said. But I thought your body only lasted for 3 years. Amachi asked in confusion. Indeed, but I have made several improvements and now, this body will last for nearly twice as long. What wonderful news. I must tell you that I have also made improvements thanks to your gene splicing research you provided for my Kima project. I must also thank you for the specimen you have brought me. Especially that boy. His body is simply fascinating to test. Although his rampages are a real nuisance. Yes, Jugo with his episodes can be difficult to handle. It's one of the reasons why I kept the boy locked up. He proved to be such a lovely specimen for my curse mark research, but I have no need for him anymore. Once you finish with your research, you can get rid of him. Amachi nodded. As you wish. Tell me, what about the others you have under capacity? Orochimaru asked in a curious tone. The girls are resilient as always. The boy barely converses, and those clans are getting more mysterious the more I research them. Orochimaru nodded. I see. Well, I must thank you for the notes on the bloodlines and your own research. I'm sure it can be somewhat useful for me. When you have anything new on those clans, notify me. Amachi bowed in gratitude. Thank you, Orochimaru-sama. Don't disappoint me and take care of those intruders. You have my word. Those fools are dead. The following morning on the main island, everyone decided to split up to ask the locals around the island and see if they can get any leads. It took some time before Naruto found a lead from a woman that has lived on the island for years. She explained how she and her husband left to fish near Demon Island. She had dived into the water and got a hefty catch, but when she returned to the surface, her husband was gone without a trace. This piqued Naruto's interest as he shelved this information for a later time. He then asked if there was a girl around his age with dark blue hair that wore bandages around her face, arm, and leg on the island. The woman explained that description matched a young girl by the name of Isari. She along with several other fishermen had disappeared some time ago, but she was the only one to return. Naturally, everyone suspected some foul play, but she never said anything, and this caused everyone to believe she was involved in the disappearance, and thus began treating her like an outcast. Nar felt sympathy for the girl, but even he could not ignore how suspicious it was that she was the only one to return. In hindsight, he could understand the islanders' reaction, even if he didn't like it. So Naruto asked if she knew where Isaribe lived, and she gave Nar a general idea of where she lived. Nar sent a telepathy message to Ari about his findings as he went off to find the so-called monster girl. It took Nar traveling for 30 minutes before reaching the outskirts of the island where Isaribe lives. As he walks on a rugged terrain near the shoreline, he spots a small house in the distance. He quickly sped up and reached the house in just under a minute. When he reached the house, he was greeted to the sight of Isaribe being bullied. Again, this time by some children that were throwing rocks at her. Nar growled in rage as his eyes turned into slits as he released a potent amount of K that got all of their attention. The children were understandably very frightened, while Isari was shocked to see him again. "You have 10 seconds to get out of my sight." And now, he growled. The children took the hint and ran away. Nar then looks at Isari, who looks on in shock before her face morphs to one of annoyance. He goes up to her and offers her a hand, but she just rudely slaps it away again. Nar sighed in exasperation. "You know, most would say thank you in this situation. I did not need your help," she said cynically. "Right. Because you were handling the situation so well." Isaribe growled as she got up. "What do you want?" she gritted out. "I was asking around the island for you," Nar said as he saw the girl glare at him with eyes full of anger and hatred. "Why did they tell you that I'm the monster girl, the underscore, of the sea? Have you come to take my life to appease them?" she bitterly asked. Nar shook his head. "My reason is, because I want answers," he said. "Answers to what? Why are attacking and kidnapping fishermen on the island and don't deny it? I know you were the one I saw last night. You wouldn't understand." "You're right. I wouldn't understand. I don't understand how you can hate being called a monster, yet you're just adding fuel to the fire by being the very thing you were hated for. Shut the hell up. You don't know anything about me. How could you? You don't know what suffering is like." Isari was suddenly bombarded by a very powerful key coming directly from Nar. "I tread carefully with your next words. They could be your last," Nar warned darkly. Isari gulped in fear. "I will give you this one warning. Either stop or I will stop you and your accomplices, even if it means I have to kill you all to stop this." Isaribe stared at him in shock as he turned and disappeared in a black shunshin. Nar reunites with his girlfriends before explaining his encounter with Isaribe. They understood his frustration but told him that he should have kept his temper in check. Nar nodded, which is why he left a clone to keep watch of her. They all decided to wait for Isari to wait patiently. Isari was secretly walking to some far-off location on the island. Unbeknownst to her, the Nar clone was keeping watch of her. The clone followed her until it sees Isaribe go through a cave near the shoreline. The clone dispels to alert the real Nar. The team teleport to the entrance of the same cave and quickly go through it to find an opening. They come out to a shoreline with an exit to the ocean. They see at the top of the water was Isari and another man. He was tall and muscular with round dark sunglasses covering his eyes. For some reason, Naruto and Hinata felt like they should know this person, but shook their heads. "Looks like you were followed," said the man. "Sorry," she muttered. "We need to head back to base," he said. The two quickly jumped into the water and disappeared from sight. Hinata quickly activated her Byakugan to follow the two. "I can see them. They heading out into the sea," she said. "Great. How the hell do we find them now?" Tuya growled in annoyance. I know where they are headed. Nar said as everyone looked at him. He turned to them. They are going to Demon Island, and that's where we are going to settle this Demon Island hidden base. Slap is on the ground cradling her swollen cheek. You stupid underscore, you had one job and you blew it. Now we less than greater than LL have to deal with these uninvited guests. Amachi growled. I should get rid of you or just leave you as entertainment for my men. Isori looked up with wide, fearful eyes as she began to shake. However, you did bring me valuable info on the trading ships leaving tomorrow, so I guess I will let you off the hook for now. Isebe nodded in gratitude. Thank you. Now then, if you do a good job in killing these intruders, I might consider changing you back. Isebe's eyes widen in hope at the prospect of being cured. I will take care of them. That's a promise, Isoribe said as she stood up and walked away. When she was far from hearing distance, they all began to laugh hysterically. You're one sadistic bastard, Amachi. You know that, right? Amachi simply scoffed. I just know the best way to manipulate people to do what I want. Well, I should get in position for our little surprise, said one of the men. You do that while I do some last-minute work, the scientist replied. Nar and his team finally reached the island after persuading someone to lend them a boat. Hinata, do you see anything? He asked. Hinata surveyed the surroundings until she saw something that caught her attention. There's a cave entrance a few miles ahead, she said. The group TKED to the cave entrance and wandered in for a few minutes until they reached a fork with several different pathways. Great. Now what? Tiyuya growled in annoyance. Hinata, any way of telling us which is the right one? Ari asked. Hinata shook her head. Gee man, all of these pathways are cloaked with chakra. So I can't tell which is the right way. So we have to split up? Ultier asked. And Nar nodded. We don't have a choice, he said. Nar then creates several clones to take several of the other paths. Nar goes on the path straight ahead. Hinata and Tuya take one other path while Ari and Ultier take the last path available to them. Clone Group 1 continued to trek the path they took. So far, nothing has happened, which has put the clones on edge on how confident the enemy is that they'll win. Or they were dumb enough to not set up the security. The clones really hoped for the latter. The clone team eventually reached a door at the end of the pathway. The group quickly splits and surround the door at different angles. One of the clones activated the sharing to peer into the room for any chakra signatures. Surprisingly, there was no one in the room. The only thing the clone could see was a single chakra signature. One of the clones finally decided to barge in. Nothing happened. Nar was beginning to wonder why they were underestimating them so much. Oh well, this gives his team an advantage. He looks around to see several machines and computer panels around the room with several wires on the floor and ceiling connecting to the tube in the middle of the room. The Naruto clones looked around the room and found several piles of papers left behind. The clones gave a quick survey at the notes written down. Blood and gene splicing, bloodline fusions, artificial breeding, and bloodline implants. Kima project. This has Orochimaru written all over it. These notes have some other people mentioned who assisted in his experiments. Any idea who they are? The names here are Amachi and Hyoko. One of those two or even Orochimaru is performing the experiments here. Anything on the tube here? Something about the Hazuka clan of Kiri. What? Give me that and dispel, demanded one of the clones. Soon, one of the clones disappeared and the information transferred to the other clones and the original ability to turn their bodies into water using a secret technique exclusive to them. It looks like whoever is in charge here was trying to fuse this ability with his Ka project, and from what we have read and seen, it's to turn people into some type of fish monster. That explains the demons and where the missing people went, said another clone said. Ho, this is an interesting development, another voice said. Nar and the clones turned to the tube to see a person with violet eyes staring at him. The person gave the clones a fang smile. What's up? Another group of clones was slowing, descending a flight of stairs in their route. They soon reached the end of the corridor to an opening. They all used their chakra to stick to the walls. As they slowly teed to the walls, they looked into the corridor to see several rows of bars going on for a bit with several men around each of the bars. This must be where they are holding their captives. Let's see if we can hear anything of interest. One of the clones said quietly. The clones then uses their chakra to enhance their hearing. I can't believe we have to guard these fools. Just be quiet and deal with. Not like we have anything better to do. I can think of several ways to pass the time. One of the guards said. Nar could hear a lot of whimpering and shuffling in the room. The captives were probably moving to the back of their holding cells. Why don't we have some fun with some of these females? They are quiet, the lookers. Yeah, especially those feisty redheads. You bastards even try to touch us and it'll be the last mistake you'll make. Must kill Moriana. Karen, calm down. Like hell, Hanukkah. Ra, I could use some help. Like those two would listen to us. We should just take our chances and take on the guards. You touch my socken and I'll rip your balls off your dick, growled a girl from the room. I will not let you humiliate my clan or my sisters any further. Sonia, Sarah, please calm yourselves. Let me go, Ano. Same to you, Rainer. You bastards. Touch my daughters or wife and I'll kill you. We won't let you touch those girls. You sick bastards. Slam. Shut the hell up, all of you. Need I remind you fish freaks that without us you'll be stuck like this forever? So shut up and let us have our fun or you won't ever get that cure. Nar had already stopped listening as he was now doing his best to keep control before completely losing it and slaughtering those bastards. One clone quietly moved in to get a clear shot at the goons. He took out a few smoke bombs. The clones discreetly rolled them into the room. The bombs reached the goons before they went off, as they completely enveloped the room with dark violet smoke. What the hell? Shouted one of the prisoners. What's going on? Smoke bombs were under attack, shouted the guard. Someone set the Ari, said one guard before getting his head pierced with a canny. What happened? Before another was killed from a slit throat. Another guard fell. Mons, said one of the last guards before dying as well. The prisoners could only look on in confusion as they heard the cries of the guards. Just what was going on? Suddenly there was a large aslama. As the smoke cleared, there stood a masked ninja holding the last living guard by the throat. This gave the prisoners some sense of hope. Could this be the person to save them from this hell? Nar glared at the guard with pure hatred in his eye. You're going to tell me everything you know about these prisoners and what plans you bastards had for all of them? Nar said in a low growl. Never. I'll die before I tell you anything. The guard said defiantly. Nar merely smirked. I knew you would say that, he said darkly. Under the mask, his eyes turned into the Sharingan. The Sharingan, while immature, can still perform very potent genjutsus. Sharingan, Nar quietly muttered. The guard's eyes became dilated as the genjutsu put him under Naruto's complete control. Now tell me about these prisoners, Nar demanded again. The ones behind you are mostly those we captured from the village on the main island. Amachi-sama wanted to use them in his experimentation in his Ka project to create an army of mer people. Nar nodded. Is there a cure for this Ka project? No, Amachi never had any intention of curing anyone. He made the lie up to always keep everyone under his leash. They'll be stuck like that forever. This caused several of the prisoners to roar in outrage. What the hell? He promised us. He played us for fools. How can we face our families like these? We less than greater than LLB freaks forever. What about the rest of us? Yeah, what was going to happen to us? Next question. Who were in the bars behind you? Nar asked. They were members of clans that Amachi was interested in researching. Nar tilted his head. What clans? He asked. The first two clans were known as Styri and Leviathan clans, said the hypnotized guard as members of the two clans growled at the guard in hatred. What did he want from the two clans? He asked. Amachi wanted to research their ability to manipulate water, wind, and ice. The latter being used by the Leviathan clan. This got Naruto to blink. This was getting interesting. Ice. Do they any relation to the Yuki clan of Kiri? He asked. This got the two clans to look at Naruto in confusion. What the hell was he trying to find out? Sonya was looking at Naruto with distrust. Amachi had the original assumption, but later concluded they had no relation. The Leviathan had more capabilities than the Yuki clan ever showed from recorded documents. What do you mean? Nar asked in confusion. They can freely manipulate ice without hand signs and do it with some strange energy they're apparently able to absorb into their bodies. Nar was very close to dropping the man in shock as his eyes widened to the size of dinner plates. Wait, is he saying the Leviathan and Styri clan